Today on Beads, Baubles and Jewels, author Ashley Bunting shows us how to make trendy floral jewelry using parachute cord and other supplies from your beading stash. And Ashley, let's just take a minute here to talk about trend spotting and kind of where you get your inspiration, what you look for.
I really find inspiration lately with cords, and what is nice about them is that they're easily obtainable. You can find them at any local craft store, and I think that's really where a trend grows, is if you can find a material and build it into something you love, then other people are going to love it too and expand on your ideas and take your designs into their own jewelry. So,
right. Well, it looks like you have an eye for color too.
I love working with color, yes, and things like the parachute cord that's really popular now comes in fabulous colors, bright neons, dark, more utilitarian colors, and I really love working with different tones and different colorways.
Yeah, I can tell from looking at your work. It's
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thanks.
And it looks like you have a couple of, we're going to be making this flower brooch here.
Yes.
It looks like you also have a couple of other ideas for parachute cord.
Yes, I do. There's this piece here that we'll be working on, and then there is some other applications for the cord that maybe you haven't seen before.
Well, we'll take a look at those when we finish looking at your flower.
Wonderful.
All right.
So this here is a parachute cord or flower brooch, and to start that I'm using the 550 cord, which is the thicker version. Comes a little bit thinner, but you want this thicker stuff here. And to work with this, you need 3 different colors of the cord. I'm using a hot pink, an orange, and a deep green. So I'm going to start using some high durability scissors here and cut 4 inches of,
I can hold it for you.
Thanks, of the pink cord here.
All right.
Now, parachute cord is what's called a kern mantle, and that means that it has this white core or kern and an outer mantle or sheath, this pink color. So, to start the project, we're just going to remove that kern. What's left is a tube in a great color. Now you could just do a simple heating the ends of this, and that's what's going to make a tube shape. But for this project, we're actually going to flare the lip of this tube to start our flower shape. Now you can use your fingertip to flare this, but any sort of smooth pen-like implement will work great for flaring out that end. This is just a pen knife. So all you're going to do is apply pressure to the end of that tube and spin your cord. You can see that it starts to flare out. And because we're doing 3 different colors, the pink is color number 1, the interior of the flower, and then there's orange and the green. So the pink flare you want to have the least amount so it doesn't cover up your orange. So once you've reached a desired lip, looks about like that.
That looks good. You're really starting to see kind of a flower petal feel.
Yep, so you start to see that that looks very much like the interior of a flower. And then to stop the fraying process, I'm just going to hit the very outside edge with a lighter. Now you can use any sort of household lighter, a butane, a Zippo, whatever sort of lighter you want to use.
Okay. And that helps that finish. It does look frayed, but it's not going to continue fraying on the cord.
Exactly, yes.
Right.
So that is color number 1, and you repeat that for an orange tube. And to connect the pieces, here is my beginning pink color, and I've created just out of a scrap piece of wire a needle, and you want to hit the end of the pink again with a little bit of heat, and that keeps your needle from just pulling out the end when you do try to get it into the orange tube.
Okay, so you can use it to thread it right through there.
Exactly. And this can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes it takes a little bit of finagling. You got to kind of roll the tubes together. But I'm just going to slip that needle inside of the orange.
So this idea of layering too is another trend I think that we see around. You know, all kinds of different layering is happening.
Yes, lots of metal. You can use metal with leather and all kinds of different materials that just get layered together to give you really great textures,
Right.
different colors. It's really a cool mixed media trend that's in the jewelry world now.
Okay.
So now I've got my pink and my orange connected. And the next step would be to take that needle out and again just put it through the orange and pink. So essentially we're just doing the same process again to get the green tube on top of the core.
Okay. So as you're working there, then when you're building it together, our next step is finishing the top?
We're going to actually finish the base of the
right.
twig first, and then
I
we're going to
see.
move into the
and
top.
then build it onto the top.
So I've just taken the needle off of this one. So you can see the orange and the green. It's a little different lengths because of how it's been frayed and melted and everything. So I'm going to take my scissor again and just go ahead and even up that end and just cut right through all 3 layers. You can see now that there is a tube. There's still a hole in the middle of that. So I'm going to hit the end of this again with that heat and melt the 3 layers together. And this you want to give a little bit more heat than what you did to the lip of the flower, but you want to make sure that there's still an open tube through there because we are going to be feeding a wire through that tube.
Okay.
So that is the base of your first twig of the flower sprig. The next part, we are going to take a piece of 22 gauge wire and cut 5 inches. And again, all of these measurements are not, they don't need to be perfect. It's just a reference number.
Okay, and we'll have the instructions too for when people want to make this at home.
So I've cut my wire and I'm going to build a homemade head pin. I'm just going to take this tweezer nose plier and bend over the very end of my wire and flatten that out. And that's just going to create a stop for my bead so it doesn't fall off the end and it holds everything together.
All right.
I'm using a crystal marguerite, and it has a front and a back to this bead, and I actually like to put the back forward. I think the colors look really nice with the colors in the project, and it has a really nice carnival glass look. So that's another thing that I really like to look for in my jewelry is, you know, maybe not always doing the most,
Right.
the most common answer.
Another hot trend.
Hot trend.
Making it your own.
Yes. I definitely find that problem solving is the most exciting part of jewelry making. Finding something, maybe not being that interested in it, and finding a way to really love that material and do a new spin on it. So now I've just slid my head pin that I made through my crystal and through my tube that I just created. To start building off of this, you can really do whatever pattern you like. Maybe you want a ton of flowers on there, or maybe you just want 1 or 2.
All right.
So I will take another finished tube, and off of my base, I'm going to lay my next twig where I'd want it to attach. And you can see I want it to come in at an angle, so I want to cut that twig at an angle so it matches.
So you're going to cut all the way through
all the way through again.
layers.
So let's lay that down. Maybe I want to just attach it there.
That looks good.
And I'll cut that layer. Just make sure I've got a nice clean end there. So I'll cut up a little bit of those fraying bits. And I'm going to melt that end also so it doesn't continue to fray.
Okay. And then those heated fibers.
Yes. So this is all, you know, a synthetic material, and that's why you're getting this response. If it was a natural, it'd be like a candle wick and it would just catch on fire. But instead it's going to melt. So I have another pre-made head pin here that I made earlier, and I'm going to slide that into my second twig sprig. And then to attach it, I will punch it through the base twig, which I have started over here. Sometimes you'll want to use an awl or another sharp implement to start your hole, because it can be a little bit difficult to get through those 3 layers of fibers.
So you need to make a pilot hole there.
Exactly, and if you don't do that, sometimes your wire will bend.
Yeah.
But you can see here, it's just punched through the layer here, and the end comes out the same base tube here.
Okay. And then how do you finish the ends here?
Yeah, so to finish, you can see in the sample project, I've created little coils that make kind of like a root system. And to do that...
Do you do that as you go along?
I usually like to do that at the very end.
Oh, okay.
In case maybe I don't love where one is positioned. It's very flexible. You could always take one out, add a different one. It's also nice, these are all flexible, so you can really direct which way you want your flowers to be facing.
Oh, yeah.
So I will just take some round nose pliers, and I'm going to grasp the end of my wire. And I might cut that off just because it's a little bent up from getting it through there. So I've cut off my little bit there.
Okay.
And I'm going to grab with my round nose, twist, reposition and twist, and you just continue doing this until it eats up all of that wire length. And that's really what's going to hold the whole piece together, and it makes a nice finished look rather than it just having like one simple loop on the bottom or having to add glue or something.
Yeah. This
This way you use that finishing to add another element to your piece. You always want to think about what if someone's looking at the back of a piece? Is it as finished as the front of the piece? Jewelry is a 3-dimensional medium, so people are going to see it in the round, and you want to make sure it's going to lay correctly and really work with actually wearability.
Sure.
So I've got my little coils all set there, and you can just kind of play with them until you like the positioning. And I'm just going to bend my flowers so they all face forward.
And you could add as many branches as you wanted to.
Yeah, this one's just a little sprig because I was thinking I brought out an alligator clip here. So to finish it, we're going to glue our alligator clip on there, just with some epoxy, any sort of heavy-duty glue that will work for metal and fiber. So I'll just lay out a bead of glue there, and then I'm just going to press it onto the main branch of my little flower sprig, right there.
And you can just set it in here to dry if you want to.
Sure. So this one you can wear. You could wear it as a little hairpin,
Oh, yeah, that
a
would
hair
be sweet.
clip, or a man's lapel pin. You could use them as wedding accessories. Really, anything is possible with this. And what's exciting, I think, about it is that you can turn kind of a very utilitarian material into something that's dainty and feminine, and really use it, what would be just a cord, as a sculpting material.
Right, and you
really
get your
build
trendy
something
colors
out of.
in there too. Now,
Yep.
what other kinds of things would you make out of parachute cord?
Sure. So this project up here is a nice basic one. It's a wrap bracelet using memory wire, and it is just creating tubes. So it's a nice material. You get a really great texture by using the fiber, but it's a nice long piece that will cover up that exposed wire.
Right.
You can use it for the back of a necklace, maybe if you want to do heavy beads, and then just do a nice simple paracord tube that would be comfortable on the back of your neck. And then this piece here is made by creating melting loops of the parachute cord. And then the bright turquoise and green piece in the front is actually a macrame technique using ribbon, and the core of that is the parachute
Oh, so you do the ribbon
cord.
over the top.
Yeah, so it gives you a nice thick building block for you to make that macrame technique off of.
That looks really pretty with the scallops too.
Oh, thanks.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
And it's also, you know, when I like to approach materials and really experiment and learn what it can do and what its characteristics are. So you could see that this is meltable because it's a synthetic. It frays, and so another application that you can do is you can easily make tassels. So those are actually made with pieces of paracord, which makes a tassel project a lot easier because you don't have to cut a million pieces.
Right, that's a good idea. You can just sort of fray them out and then put the end cap at the top. That looks great.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And let's take a look also at this piece right here.
Yeah.
Is using some jute cord on the flowers there at the front.
Right, yep. So those were some vintage copper flowers. I use a lot of vintage pieces because I really like the idea of like collecting things. And so that was built from a blank. So I found it and said, how can I make this look a little more finished? How can I make this a trendy object? And so I wrapped jute around those individual flower spokes. And what I find really appealing about it is that it has like the really clean sparkle of the crystal, and then it has kind of the, you know, earthier feel of that fuzzy fiber.
Oh, yeah, you're bringing in those other fibers, definitely. That's a really good look. And also a lot of these are bringing in some other fibers into the jewelry.
Yes, yeah, I've been really inspired by things like leather, ribbon and lace, and then kind of like a natural selection of like hemp cord, cotton, jute, and really, again, learning those characteristics of you know, a natural fiber is going to be able to be dyed, and you can glue it, or it's going to have that nice fuzzy quality, where the synthetic is going to be melting. And taking those ideas and figuring out what I can manipulate with those characteristics to make a new unique project.
Yeah, well, these are some really great ideas and a lot of inspiration here.
Thank you. Yeah, I really hope that you know, people can, I love when someone can take a design or an idea that I've had and really make it their own. So maybe this is just a little snippet technique that they can latch onto and find something else they love about it.
Definitely. So. Well, the suede pieces too are a great example of that. I can tell that you really made those your own by snipping the ends there.
Yeah. Yep. So those are all. I'm a big thrifter. So I again, I'm a collector of things. So my leather, I usually find, I recycle it. I find pieces that I can cut up, and so I again looked at this material, like, what can I make this into a jewelry piece? It doesn't. Leather obviously doesn't fray, so it's going to hold that edge once I cut it.
Right.
And it is heat treatable, so those little flowers are cupped with heat, so you can get a really good texture and shape out of you know, a normally flat surface like a leather piece.
Yeah, those look really great, and I love the way that these are kind of flaring out too.
Yeah, so again, that's on trend with the layering technique, where it has like a fuzzy suede feel, and then it's got a copper flower, and it's got some crystal in it, so it's got a really great texture to it. So
definitely. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing all of these ideas with us, Ashley. These are really a lot of inspiring pieces, and I can't wait to make some.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
it's been great being here.
All right, good.